An occasional SEO nerd myself, I was taken by your statement that there's so many Cassidy Williams, but you've managed to own three of the top four spots on Google by my count when you search for Cassidy Williams. So I appreciated some of your keyword stuffing, if you will, of who you were and your approach to that. But tell us more about that.
There is a Scooby Doo character named Cassidy Williams where I did not know this until.
Well, we just got done interviewing Cassidy Williams. She's a prolific content creator, developer evangelist, just a great resume across startups. But today we talked to her about her experience creating Jumblie. And Joseph, what were some of your takeaways?
I came across Jumblie, really enjoyed the process of being able to play a spelling game that I was good at. And I actually thought, hey, this is kind of like Connections, a bunch of words all in a theme. And there's a gift that is given to every player when a puzzle editor does a little clustering, right? And you get to unwind that gift or take the bow off. And so I really enjoy the game. And I found it interesting to hear the conversation where it's like, oh, but now I'm a puzzle editor. And so like the value of that process is also work. And it was great. Great to chat, fun to hear influences of AI in the gaming world come through in her story as well. How about yourself?
Yeah, likewise. I think the accidental puzzle editor was a good takeaway, so you have to hear about that. But also just kind of a cool story about how game taking off in Korea could be a launching pad for getting more people to her game. So on to the pod so you can hear more about that. I'm Aaron Cardell, and I'm here with my co-host Joseph Reuter. Today we're excited to speak with Cassidy Williams, the creator of Jumblie. Cassidy is a veteran developer, programmer, and software engineer with a lifelong career filled with various software development and developer evangelist roles. She's also a podcast host. She's pretty prolific on Twitter as well, has some really fun videos there. And aside from her decorated experience, she co-founded Cosign, which is the fastest and most affordable way for content creators to protect themselves and their life's work. Prior to that, she also co-founded Contenda, which recently went open source. Jumblie is a word game where you have to guess exactly 4 words that are hidden among the jumble of letters. These 4 words are always between 4 and 9 characters long, with a color-coded system where blue is the longest word and red is the shortest. Cassidy also wrote 13 Potions as a game prior to that, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And Cassidy, we're thrilled you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Cassidy, as you know, we always like to ask first, what's your favorite game to play?
So, video game is Civilization. Civ 6. I've sunk so many hours into that game. It is so dang fun. And plus, because it's turn-based, I can like play a turn and then like answer an email and then go back, and I feel very productive while playing it. So that one's great. And then board games, I really like Agricola. And that one is kind of like a land management game where you're trying to build out your farm, feed your family, and beat other players to certain resources and stuff. It's really fun.
Was it like Settlers of Catan?
Similar, but I think a bit more strategic.
Okay.
Because you can have like different improvements and occupations in every game that I've never played a game that's similar to another one because it is really randomized in a good way and balanced in a good way. And yes, I feel like Catan is a good like gateway drug to Agricola.
There you go. Well, the people I play Catan with don't like strategy, so I don't think we'll be playing this.
Yeah, maybe a different group.
Yeah, different group, new people. Cool. Well, in the land of fields, we looked way back, and Aaron and I are both in Minneapolis, the land of General Mills, and we saw that you've got a cross path with
I
some General Mills
did.
time. Did you actually go to headquarters, or did you have a different kind of role back in the day?
I did. So this was a long time ago. I interned at General Mills and I lived right next to headquarters. That was the best summer, let me tell you. Like, I always gush, like, if I ever did move to Minneapolis, I'm over in Chicago, I would work again for General Mills in a heartbeat, purely because I had so much free food. I've been spoiled for cereal prices for the rest of my life, and like on the way from like the parking garage into the rest of the building, there was like a free room where they always just had snacks, whether it was like Nature Valley bars or Muddy Buddies or something. And I was at my largest at the end of that summer because it was so much food and it was amazing. And they had like a grocery store in house and like a doctor's office in house, a daycare in house. It was amazing.
It's pretty incredible. We've done work out there and know a bunch of people that work there. And
Oh,
yeah, I was
cool.
like, you have an auto mechanic at the office? Come on, guys.
Right?
It's so good.
It's like the gas station on site. I saved so much money on gas. Like
It's so good.
it has so many nice perks that like I feel like people don't realize how nice that office is. And yeah, I have some friends who still work there from back when I worked there, and I don't blame them. It's amazing.
Yeah. But then you took a turn to the south to a very questionable state, Iowa. How did this come down?
I went to Iowa State University. Go Cyclones.
There you go.
I was the school mascot there, so that's how much I liked it.
Like in the
Yeah, I was wearing the big bird suit. Yep.
you were a furry. No.
I've started to realize, oh dang, did I have a furry like spell? I didn't mean to. I just thought it'd be fun to put on the costume, and this was truly my freshman year of college. I was just like, oh cool, it'd be fun to like wear the bird once. I wonder if they ever need help, like, I don't know, waving in a bird costume. And then they were like, wait, how tall are you? Our Cy just graduated, and thus I was the mascot all 4 years of college.
That's awesome. Free entrance to so many popular events.
Oh yeah, I actually, so they have different costumes where like athletic Cy is the one that actually goes to the games. I was not athletic. You have to like be able to do a flip in the costume for that one. But I did like all of the non-sport events. And so I kicked off races. I did like Winterfest. I would do Cy Day Fridays, passing out water bottles. And the biggest one was probably just the Iowa State Fair, where I was like amongst the butter cow and like waving to all the kids and taking pictures and stuff. I passed out in the costume because it was so dang hot. It was quite the journey being the college mascot.
That's awesome.
Would you say that is that sort of your start down the path of I don't want to call it entertainment, but you've got some very entertaining Twitter videos.
I think I've just always been a clown, whether I realized it or not. And now hindsight is 2020, where I'm just like, oh dang, I have liked entertaining people, but it was more just like having a good time and stumbling upon various things that have led me to where I am today.
That's great. One of our co-founders, often co-host, Nate, when you first wrote into us, he sent over your video of I think it was like a pull request for open source or something like that, and just all of the different personalities and comments and the furious typing. He was like, come on, this is awesome.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly which one that was. I have a lot of wigs and I put them to good use for that video.
It's great. Well, how many videos do you have now, do you think?
I don't even know. I admit I slowed down making them when I gave birth, because it's kind of hard to like take the time to make and edit a video when you have a baby rolling around. But I definitely made a lot. I actually first started making videos way, way long ago, like early 2000s, and then video editing was so just cumbersome and took so long that as high school, college, etc. picked up, I kind of just put it aside, and I was like, videos are fun, but video editing takes forever. And then TikTok rolled around, and then back in like 2019, I kind of just started playing around with it, and I was like, wait, this means I can make videos again, and it's so easy to just edit and hit submit, and then it's done. And so then I started making a ton, and then the pandemic happened and I had nothing else to do. And so I was making a ton more videos, and I still like making them on occasion, but yeah, I have more limited time these days to do so.
Well, we can definitely relate to that. Forces some prioritization.
Yeah.
Oh, the small humans.
The small humans, they're so fun. I love her. She's great, but she takes some time. So
Yes, yes. And they rewire your brain. We understand you spent some time in Spain. Also
yeah.
a rewiring.
Yeah. That was an amazing rewiring, honestly. Like, actually was. I've actually given a conference talk about how much it rewired my brain, because it's such a great country. I love it, and it was really good for really getting immersed in Spanish and speaking better and everything. But yeah, before Spain, I was so stressed just trying to do everything, and wasn't sleeping well. I literally almost went blind in one eye because I was sleeping so poorly and just trying to do everything. And then I moved there, and this beautiful land of olive oil and siestas. I love it. And I got to make so many good friends. This was, let's see, in 2012. Oh my gosh, it was 12 years ago. So many friends that I'm still friends with today, that where I just got to know them super well, got to know the culture super well, and really just traveled the country and loved it. My husband and I still talk about what if we moved to Spain one day. And yeah, it kind of rewired my brain to just be more chill, honestly. I remember when I came back, my mom was like, "This is the most zen I've seen you since you were like 5. Well, what's up?" And it was a really great experience living there. I loved it.
Wow, that's notable. I have one of the best lunches in my entire life on the south side of the Sierra Nevada area. We had done the Birica ham trail, whatever,
Sure.
and then forgot about siesta. So we bummed some sandwiches off a place that we, clearly interrupted, but then found a grove, had a beer, just it's incredible. That country is ridiculous.
It's so beautiful, and everyone is just so kind and nice. I actually visited this past fall, and we brought the baby. She was only 6 months old, and oh my gosh, they treat us like royalty when you have a baby there. Where people were like making room for us to sit at their own tables at restaurants, and like giving her bread, and we were able to just really just walk through the country in a place where they really care about kids. Not that the US doesn't, but it definitely, relatively speaking, it feels like they don't. Like it was a harsh reality coming back home, because they were just so kind to us, and like letting us go to the front of every line, and just parks everywhere and everything. And even though she was very small at the time, like, oh, I can't wait to bring her back, just because it is such a nice country with really great food.
Yeah.
I affirm all that. Loved my time there too. I think one of my biggest questions was, do they sleep? Like,
They do, just at different hours.
yeah, right. They seem to get up at the
That's very
same
real,
time,
though.
but they're eating dinner at 11 o'clock and partying all night.
I know. I remember I'm not like a major partier, but one time I went out, and my host mom, I came back, and it was like 4 a.m. and she's like, "You're back early." And I was like, "I am? It's 4." And she was just like chilling with some wine on the balcony, and that's they sleep at different times, but it was great. Like I can't emphasize enough how close I was to going blind from lack of sleep and just stress and stuff in general. And the fact that like I came back and I was completely fine and sleeping normally, eating normally, seeing normally, I love that country. It was great.
Yeah. So good. Has it informed some of your work between now and then?
Yes, in that if there's ever an opportunity to do a work trip there, I'm there. And so I've definitely spoken at conferences and stuff out there, just because it gives me a chance to go back. But I also think it did teach me a lot of lessons on like just burnout in general, where I have burnt out a couple times since then, but it has stopped me from burning out way more than that. Where I can remember, like, you could just sleep and take a little siesta, or kind of slow down a little bit, or let yourself meander a little bit, and it's better for your health in the long run. And I think that's something that has definitely really stuck with me.
It's awesome.
Well, as a kind of an abrupt change of topics, but as an occasional SEO nerd myself, I was taken by your statement that there's so many Cassidy Williams, but you've managed to own 3 of the top 4 spots on Google by my count when you search for Cassidy Williams. So I appreciated some of your keyword stuffing, if you will, of who you were and your approach to that. But tell us more about that.
There is a Scooby Doo character named Cassidy Williams where I did not know this until far too late into, my life, being like, why did I keep this name? She's ruining it. That is a joke. SEO is not something I'm an expert at in any way, shape, or form. I just know generally, hey, you should have certain keywords and have the right OG images and descriptions and stuff. And so I've always tried to do that on most things. And then I was very annoyed one day when I saw that I was still being overtaken by Scooby Doo. So I wrote a blog post where it was just my name and a bunch of keywords. So it could be like, this will at least help bump up my website a little bit more. So that way, if someone's looking for me, they can find me.
Did you ever ask your parents, was your name inspired by Scooby Doo or?
They did not know, and I also didn't know that Cassidy Doo sounds a whole lot like a Scooby Doo reference. It is not. What can you do? That is just that's a pun. What can you do? But anyway, yeah, it was all by mistake, but it's okay. She and I are friends now.
So amongst your many skills, you're a repeat founder. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about your most recent venture, Cosign?
So Cosign is one that I almost wouldn't even call it the most recent. It's just been the longest, where I started that with a really awesome group of people back in, I think it was 2015, 2016-ish, where it started kind of out of the blue with a very funny coincidence where a mentor of mine, she had founded a firm that no longer exists called Women in Mobile, where it was investing in women building mobile applications and mobile startups, or Women Innovate Mobile, that's what it was. But then there was another very large org called Women in Music, and the WIM domain name was a major conflict there. And so my mentor and this person who was on the board of Women in Music, they were just like, hey, we want the domain name. And then they realized just how big both of their organizations were and became friends. And so my mentor was like, you should talk to this person because this was kind of an accident, but she's really cool. And then as I was talking with her, she was talking about how so much of the music industry is still done via paper. Or like writing split sheet contracts where if all 3 of us wrote a song together, we could say that, okay, each of us own 20% and then the publisher owns the rest or something like that. Stuff like that is still done via paper a lot to this day still. Or saying okay, I want this music in my movie. You have to get so many things signed off via really slow processes and legal processes that take forever. And also just copyright registrations in general, still very slow. And if you make a mistake on your application, you have to pay the fee again and start over. So anyway, it was just a very, very manual process. And so as she was talking to me about this as a problem, I was just like, well, what if we built this? What if we did something like that? And she was just like, this is what I want to do, but I don't know anybody technical. And thus the company was born. And so there's a group of us now where we made this product that now kind of runs on its own, and we're building some more features that I can't talk about currently, but it's very exciting where new copyright rules come out, we can build it into the platform, and then publications can use it for copyright. And it's been something where it's still kind of a side project for all of us, where some folks work on it full-time. Most of us are on it part-time as we do other things. But yeah, that's kind of the story of Cosign, and it's been really, really awesome to work on.
Well, it's been fascinating. Some of the business podcasts I listen to, they've done side episodes on just trying to understand all the rights within music, and it's super complex, as you know better than any of us. And I'm also reminded there was a show I used to watch in I think it was the early 2000s, probably long forgotten at this point, Ed. Was the name of it?
Not Edit and Eddie?
No, no.
Go on. Sorry.
But never came out on DVD, never been streamed, and the story is like they just couldn't secure the music rights, and so you've got this show that had a committed fan base that it's just never going to be seen again because those music
Dang.
rights are locked up and nobody wants to figure it out.
That's so frustrating. That's kind of like the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella that has Brandy and Whoopi Goldberg and Whitney Houston. I love that movie. I think it's one of the best movie musicals of all time, if not the best. But they never made a soundtrack for very similar reasons, where stuff got tied up and like the label wanted Brandy to be more hip hop oriented and everything, and politics. Later, the movie has seen a little bit of a revival with some of the cast coming back and doing interviews, but they still haven't been able to make the soundtrack, and it's such a bummer because the music's so good.
That sounds like an awesome mission and definitely filling a void.
Yeah, and the team is really experienced with the music industry and stuff, and I've learned so much about it, where I just truly came from the tech background, and it's been wild to see just the innovations and changes that we've been able to do. It's great.
It's cool. And then another startup you've been involved in co-founding, Contenda.
Yeah, that one, oh man, it's still very bittersweet for me because we're open sourcing and shutting that one all down, and the team is splitting up. And my CEO is trying to see what things she can salvage from it right now, and so that'd be cool if she can build something. But yeah, anyway, Contenda was one that kind of came out of the blue as well, where as most things do, so a random encounter ends up being really cool. Where for Contenda, I have a Patreon group. I originally made it so people could get resume reviews and interview prep and stuff, just to kind of help scale and protect my time a little bit better. And it turned into just a really great Discord community where now to this day, I think I've missed like 50 messages since this podcast started. It's really active, of people just talking about tech in general, what they're building, games that they're playing, stuff like that. And my CEO at the time, she was in there and she noticed that I was mailing stickers individually to people, just as like a thank you for being a part of it and stuff like that. This was back in 2020 or so. I think it was right around pandemic times. And she was like, hey, if I built something that would help you automate sending stickers, would you use it? And I said, absolutely, because I was like handwriting envelopes and stuff, and I didn't know of any services at the time. She and a couple friends, they ended up building this platform for mailing stickers, and then they were like, wait, this is kind of cool actually. And as they scaled it and messed with it, it turned into a really good just platform for retaining subscribers. And they ended up helping Ludwig, the Twitch streamer, break a world record for the most number of subscribers on Twitch because he was mailing stickers to everyone with the platform. And that's kind of how Contenda started. And from there, they were like, okay, stickers don't scale. What if we build different creator tools? And pivoted a bunch of different times. And eventually I joined, and we were building AI things before the AI hype wave started. So like before ChatGPT and stuff. And we were building tools where you could take media, like this podcast, for example, and then turn it into a blog post or a Twitter thread or highlight clips or things like that. And so we had built this tool, and then GPT came out. And we kind of tried to refine it, saying, oh, but we can help with technical accuracy with these custom models. So you could say, install React in a conference talk, and it would actually have like the code samples for installing that, or something like that. But anyway, that was going well enough. And then the tides started to turn economy-wise. And unfortunately, all of our paying customers got laid off. And that's just, it happens, where a lot of our customers were dev advocacy teams or groups where they were specifically focusing on technical content creation. And not only were layoffs happening there, but then also GPT-4 came out, and our edge kind of started to go away as everybody was kind of making turn a video or a YouTube into a transcript and a blog post and summarize it. And so we started the pivoting process again. And our latest software that I particularly loved was Brainstory, where we had a few mini pivots in there, but then we started leaning into Brainstory, where it took a conversation that you were having with the browser and turned it into a really good summary where you could say, okay, I want to talk about a podcast idea that I have. And what it would do is it would, instead of generating like, okay, this is the podcast that you should do, it would just ask you questions. And it used Socratic questioning where you could say, okay, I have a podcast idea, and say, okay, who's your target audience? And as you talked it through, it'd help you brainstorm ideas. And so I ended up using it for conference talks, for meeting prep, for blog posts. And that was kind of the main use case where a lot of people were using it to write essays or to write content and or to again plan for meetings, and you could get feedback through it and stuff. And it was going just well enough that we really tried to hold on and make it work. But we realized that we had a really nice shiny nail, or really nice shiny hammer, but couldn't figure out which nail that we wanted to hit. And none of the nails that we tried to hit were making enough money to sustain it. And so that's kind of what led to us making a very sad decision to open source it and shut it down. But at the same time, I'm really happy that we are open sourcing it so I can live on in some way. And I'd love to kind of recreate my own version of it because it's a tool that I've really enjoyed working with.
Well, it's always hard when a startup doesn't take the final form or life that you want it to, but it sounds like definitely a good journey and a lot to be learned from that for sure.
Yeah, and the team was so good too. Like, I'm sad that it ended, but I'm really happy that it happened because it was a really good group of people to work with.
It's a great attitude. So prior to Jumblie, you created 13 Potions. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey on that game?
So 13 Potions was a game that I made for a hackathon, and I thought, I've always wanted to make a little game like this where it was a little character running around with arrow keys and stuff, and I really enjoy arcade style games. And there's this online hackathon that happens every year called JS 13K Games, and it's make a 13 kilobyte game with JavaScript and go. That's pretty much the prompt.
Just to confirm, is that I assume that's a max, or is it it needs to be exactly?
Yeah, that's the max, and it is a very tiny max, and so you can do less, you can try,
sure,
but it's tough, and so that is the game, and
minified is okay, I assume,
right? I think everybody makes it as minified as possible, and I also, if you are interested in this game jam, I think this year is its 13th year, and it's going to be in September, I think, when they release or when they announced the newest challenge. But anyway, so I saw that the hackathon was starting, and I was like, I've always followed it because it's been interesting, so I'll try submitting something. And thus 13 Potions was born, where I originally was thinking, okay, I found like this free tile pack on the internet. What if I made like a little maze? And as I was kind of fiddling around with Tiled, the map editor, I was like, okay, you know what? Instead of a maze, what if I tried to actually make it where there's a goal instead of just going from point A to point B? Let's make it more open. And so that's kind of how I came up with the concept of 13 Potions, where it started with drawing, and then I was like, okay, let's make it a proper goal. And it was a very fun learning experience where I made it so that way you could have like randomized ghosts that slow you down. I learned about how you could do collisions and like speed changes based on collisions, or color changes, or a timer that's always constantly going as you're running, that sort of thing. And it was really fun to build. It was kind of stressful because I had to do it under the deadline. And then sadly, it was disqualified because I didn't realize that the game engine that you use counted towards the size. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'm in the size limit. I'm perfect. Yay. And then I realized that Phaser is a very, very large game dev framework. And so anyway, the game was disqualified, but it was very fun to build. And so it's worth it. And you can play it on itch.io.
Well, a brutal realization afterwards, but sounds like a fun experience nevertheless.
Yeah, absolutely worth it. I was able to accomplish some personal goals with it, so I'll take it.
That's good.
So you've built 2 games that are in public. We do a podcast, we've got games, weird things happen. Like you end up on a subreddit for devils games in South Korea. What other
Devil's
kinds of
Plan. Yeah.
yeah, what other kinds of fun things might have happened along the way? You got to be a puzzle editor, but there's these upsides that might not have been expected.
It's really fun to kind of tap into a lot of these communities and learn more. And one of the games that I play often that I honestly probably should have brought up before is Go, also known as Badok in Korea. And it's the black and white pieces on the grid. And like AlphaGo was a big thing a few years ago that was the AI playing it. One of the competitors on Devil's Plan is a professional Go player that I actually follow on YouTube, and I was able to talk to her at 7, and so the little things like that, we were just like, oh dang, this is awesome. Has been really fun to see and experience for sure.
Looking back on, I guess your Jumblie experience specifically, you've got so many rich other experiences, but is there anything you might do differently on Jumblie now with the benefit of hindsight?
With the benefit of hindsight, honestly, because my main problems currently right now are puzzle editing, which not a problem, but something that I have to think about. I think it would have been interesting to add another layer of like hints or something where I could maybe do like the same puzzle again, but it has a different kind of hint. And that might be interesting like that. Or I've been thinking about, what if I made a hint where like easy mode colors all of the letters in the words that they're supposed to be, or something like that. Or if I added some degree of challenge where there's like a stray letter that is added, where I could do that now. But first of all, I feel like the existing players, they might be just like, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm thinking about that. But something that would make it so I could reuse puzzles a little bit more would probably be nice for me in hindsight, as once again, puzzle editing is challenging.
It's good.
Are you familiar with Zach Gage's work?
Hang on one second. I recognize that name and I'm trying to figure out why. Yeah, Zach is really talented. He's cool.
He has some interesting conversation about being a puzzle editor and then what to do when tutorializing. And when you mentioned adding a button or changing some things, it was reminded of our conversation with him where he was talking about building environments for persons to tinker and teach themselves the game along the way. I think it's a really rich path of conversation and maybe one I wanted to just encourage you to chase that one.
Yeah, no, that sounds cool. And yeah, I think some kind of tutorial would be a fun addition to it. I was actually talking to Josh Wardle recently, who made Wordle, and we were both lamenting about being puzzle editors, where for him, especially, Wordle was only 1 word a day, but when he originally just got tons of words, there's a lot of 5-letter words in the English dictionary, and he ended up making a whole separate app where it was just people saying, I know this word, I don't know this word, back and forth until he had a good enough dictionary of words that he could populate his game with it. And he was saying there's ways to automate it, but word games are such an art rather than, or compared to a lot of logic games where it is very math-based and you can generate things more. And finding that balance is definitely challenging, but it's an interesting challenge because it's different for every game.
I saw 13 and I was like, oh, favorite number? But that was just about the kilobytes, right?
Yeah, it was about the kilobytes. I am not the Swiftie of the family. My husband is, but yeah, it was definitely for like a fun ode to the game jam that I was disqualified from.
Well, tell him I'm the Swiftie of the family too.
I'm also included in that group.
Wow, I am surrounded by Swifties. Okay, what's your favorite song?
Favorite song, probably Exile. Bon Iver fan, so gotta throw it in there.
You were my crown. Now I'm in exile, seeing you out.
That's also on the best album.
True. Well, one of the 2 best albums.
Yeah, it's good. Well, but we both have daughters, so it's not just like one of the 2 best albums. It's a creepy middle-aged man thing. It's this thing to share with my daughters.
I don't think it's creepy. It's good music. I do like the Lover album. I think it's really fun music.
lover. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please stand with
So you're working a lot on what seem to be advanced, like AI systems or complicated legal environments, but in the process you've created these games. Do you take them as breaks? One was for a competition, but now you've gone on to build another. We like to say that people play games in the cracks of their day. And sometimes it's like quiet, like you want to hide it. How do games lay into your development process?
I've always wanted to make more games, and I just haven't really taken the time to. Where I've a notebook of game ideas. I love making games, and I think games are just fun in general. But also, game studios are very scary to me because you always hear about just how intense it is at crunch time and all that. And so I've always wanted to just make fun little casual games where you could like play a little bit and then move on with your life. And I have a whole mega list of them. And I think, especially again, when my daughter was born, I was just like, I want to make some of these games in those little in between times when she's napping, when I have these brief moments that I have to myself. I want to fill it with things that I really enjoy and things that I want to build. And so that's kind of just how it started, where I've wanted to make games but hadn't really done it. And then I started. And now I've made a handful of little silly ones, where Jumblie is probably the biggest one, quote unquote, because there's so many regular players of it. But I have always wanted to just make something where it is fun, kind of low effort, might teach you something, and is a good time.
So you mentioned Jumblie. Take us through that. You get a bunch of characters, you got to spell, and I'm not the best speller in the world, but I enjoyed this game.
Yay! Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, no, Jumblie, believe it or not, that was also initially for a competition, and then it was fully not related to the competition. I made it separately after that, where a friend of mine, he runs a little game, or not a game show, but kind of a game show. Kind of think Great British Bake Off, but for developers. His name's Jason Langsdorf, and you can find his content, and it's really fun. But anyway, he had this challenge where it said, make a leaderboard. Make something that has a leaderboard of some kind. And so I actually pulled out Brainstory, the tool I was talking about earlier, and I started talking through it, saying, okay, I need to build something with a leaderboard. I'd like it to be some kind of fun game, but I don't know what. And as I started talking out ideas, I ended up fully neglecting the leaderboard part of it and just wanting to make a fun game. And that's kind of how Jumblie was born, where I like word games like Connections and the Wordles and crosswords and stuff. And so I wanted to make something like that, some kind of daily word game. And I ended up coming up with Jumblie, where I thought, okay, if you made it like a word search and you were trying to just find words within a pile of letters, that could be kind of cool. Each word is used once, or each letter is used once, kind of like Connections, but it's actual words. And unlike Connections, it makes for more creativity, in my opinion, because you can make so many different words and try to think about it. When I initially made it, I was using my family group chat with my cousins to say like, okay, can you try this? And I didn't initially have a theme. It was originally just 4 random words in the English dictionary. That was not a great choice. One of my poor cousins, he was just like, I've been at this for an hour and I haven't found a single correct word. And I was like, okay, I need to make this easier. And after like putting together huge word lists and scraping the internet and everything, I realized, English is big. And so that's when I came up with the concept of a theme, and the words could be associated with the theme. But that also makes for a harder puzzle creation process, because I can't just pick 4 random words. It has to be 4 random words that are affiliated together in some way. And so that's when I turned to AI to kind of create a word list. And I learned a whole lot about LLMs in that process, where like I knew it from my work, but at the same time, LLMs are not good at counting, for example. So when I said, okay, I want each word to be like 4, 5, 6, 7 letters long, it doesn't know lengths of words. It just knows generally the vibe of the word that you want. And so I had to be a bit more loose on that and say, okay, generally give me words related to these themes. And it was really decent for like the first 10 suggestions, maybe the first 20. But then after that, it just started to be really, really obnoxious, where one of them was like finance, and the words were like macroeconomics, microeconomics, loan, and like it was just doing bad words. And so I ended up using it to create like a general set of like the first 50 or so puzzles that were okay. I ended up having to tweak a bunch of them, and that gave me enough like runway, quote unquote, to be like, okay, I can come up with enough puzzles after that this game can sustain itself. And it got just popular enough where it depending on the day, the puzzle, the time, how much I might be sharing on socials or others might be sharing in their own family group texts. Sometimes we hit like a little over 1,000 players a day. Some on low days it's around 500 players a day, but it's just enough where I'm a puzzle editor now. And so I added the ability to suggest puzzles so people can submit some. I add most of the puzzles myself and try to do it far enough in advance where I can still enjoy the puzzle later when I play it. And then I did ultimately, eventually make a leaderboard, but it's just a leaderboard with yourself, and you can see what your fastest times are and have like some visibility settings and things like that. And so anyway, that is generally how I made Jumblie, and it's been really fun to play and work with.
That's great. Yeah. So I hear like you kind of alluded to this, but maybe your family referred to it as torture at one point.
Yeah. That's when you know a game is not good.
I will say from personal experience, and I just have to like it's so hard to be a puzzle editor. And our new partner Jeff Chen, I'm sure could affirm this, but like there are some of your puzzles on Jumblie. Like I did one in 8 seconds the other day, Cassidy. Like it was, and Nate didn't believe, he's like, you just made that up, right? Like, no, I actually did it in 8 seconds. And it was the, whatever, I forget the clue, but the answer was EGOT,
oh yeah, where it was the performing music awards or whatever, or American Entertainment Awards. Yeah.
Yeah. So Grammy, Oscar, Tony, so got that one in 8 seconds. And then, I think I had another one that I was still 20 minutes in. I was like, oh, I can't get this.
It's interesting how like different people definitely are faster at other games or some themes more than others. Where I remember architecture was one, and one of our friends who's an architect was just like, I nailed that. This is amazing. And then like his wife was just like, this is impossible. I don't, building? That's it. What other words are there? And so it's fun to see like which puzzles like make people tick more than others. And my mom texts me each day saying like, this was a good puzzle, or no, this was not it.
It's good to get that feedback, huh?
Yeah. It's fun to get that feedback too from people who aren't in my usual tech sphere, because so many times I'm building developer tools or things for fellow developers and stuff, but it's really fun now where friends of mine just from other aspects of my life will be just like, oh, my grandma really liked the puzzle today, and so being able to serve that kind of audience that I don't normally hit is really, really fun, just because I get to think about very different perspectives, and I wouldn't do one where it's like programming languages, because even though that would be super easy for someone like me, someone like my own grandma would not know what to do for that.
Although I do remember connections, from New York Times in not too distant past. One of them was programming languages.
I remember that one too, actually. And I remember thinking like, ooh, but then some of them I was just like, wait a minute. Does this person actually know programming languages? Because that one could be a programming language, but I don't think people actually know that it's a programming language. And I got into a bit of a spiral there.
I think some of your co-devs have maybe mentioned, I assume co-devs on other projects maybe started reviewing Jumblie and referred to it as pure old school JavaScript. Is that a fair characterization?
It is. Because apparently I like torture, I decided to use no frameworks or anything. I've fully it's like making a cake from scratch. I built it all purely just in the browser, on the platform, vanilla HTML, CSS, JavaScript, no libraries or frameworks or anything, which in hindsight probably could have increased my dev time by a whole lot if I actually built it like a fancy way. But at the same time now, because of the way that it's built, I'm able to add features pretty easily because it's just saying, "Oh, that's just that one button. I know how to edit that button and I don't have to like edit a server code anywhere or a database anywhere." And also, if you were to download Jumblie, just like the entire web app, onto your phone or onto a device and then suddenly be lost in an ocean with no internet, it would still work. And so the entire game will still function for the number of puzzles that have been loaded into your browser at any given time. But you could be on a deserted island and play Jumblie just fine until you run out of battery.
That's great. So, Cassidy, one of the things that we got a chance to talk ahead of time, and you had mentioned Jumblie was actually compared to Word Tower on, I believe it's the Netflix show Devil's Plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was actually part of, I think, how it took off. But tell us more about that.
That was really convenient timing, honestly, where there's this show on Netflix called Devil's Plan, and it's very fun. It's basically just a bunch of smart people in a room doing puzzles, and then people get kicked out if they don't do the puzzles right, and that sort of thing, and lose points, and there's a big prize at the end, all that. And one of the games, it's a Korean show, but they had all of these English letters, and they had just a pile of blocks with letters. And it was a lot like Jumblie, where the big pie in the sky man was just like, the theme is animals. And they had all these blocks of letters and had to pull out all of the words that could be animals, and they had to pull out 4 animal words and spell it out. And honestly, that was incredible because English was everyone's second language, or maybe even third. And so some people were just like, what are some other animals? Elephant. And they would like put in an F instead of a PH, and they'd have to figure out, wait a minute, how do we spell this right? But anyway, so it was basically a physical version of Jumblie, and it was very cool because suddenly I was getting all of these mentions on Reddit for like the Devil's Plan subreddit saying like, hey, if you really liked that game, this one is like an online version of it. And so suddenly just traffic spikes from that end of the world. All of these people in Korea started playing it. And it was very funny seeing the comments where people who English was their first language, they were just like, dang, they did this as their second language. This is pretty hard with English as my first language anyway. But that's kind of where it got its first spike, and it's been really fun to see the traffic from there.
Well, so as you think about the future of the game, I think, it kind of seemed like you did it for this, not really competition, but thing that prompted it. You made a comment about you're now you found yourself to be a puzzle editor, and that's not really what you set out to do. So as you think about your next steps on Jumblie, how are you thinking about that?
Good question, because I'm trying to figure that out myself, because I love the game, don't get me wrong, but being a puzzle editor is hard work. And so I'm trying to figure out, is there a way that I can automate this a bit more? Once again, I added ways to like suggest a puzzle now, and that kind of helps, but AI is not reliable enough yet to be able to generate puzzles, and so it is very, very human. And though I enjoy it, I'm trying to figure out, what should I do in that regard? Should I like hire a puzzle editor? I don't make any money on Jumblie, so that would just be negative dollars unless I change something up. Should I contact publishers? I don't know. I admit I'm kind of in a wishy-washy place where I can't even give you a clear answer because I'm trying to figure that out myself.
Totally fair. And I think, as somebody who's spent a lot of time just thinking about algorithmically generated, typically more mathematic or logic puzzles, it's always been interesting to me how, hard it is to do a good algorithmically generated word puzzle.
Yeah.
They do exist, but often only within specific parameters. And so, I don't know. I wonder, we should reach out to I should get you in touch with Jim Bumgardner, who I think he listens to a lot of these, but he was one of our prior guests, just kind of a expert in algorithmically generated puzzles. I wonder if he's got any ideas of fruitful paths to pursue on that front for you.
I'm very curious about all of that. I'm willing to do some of that coding and writing, but the attempts that I've done so far, I'm just like, you know what, it's easier to just come up with these puzzles myself. And so we'll see where we end up on that front.
Well, Cassidy, this has been a lovely conversation. Jumblie is a great game. It's great to, get caught up on a lot of what you're working on and connect with somebody who I think I can safely say you're Twitter famous. So, anyway, I appreciate the conversation. If you want people to find you online, where should they look?
You can find me. You could just Google my name, but once again, I'm competing with Scooby Doo here. So Cassidoo, CASSIDOO, is my username on most things, and cassidoo.co is my website, and there you can find my newsletter, which is a weekly newsletter where I do practice interview questions, web news of the week, and I talk about the various projects I work on.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being here, Cassidy.
Thank you so much for having me.